Welcome to the Dirt on Real Estate today, everyone. So excited to have you back. We have a great episode planned for today. We're going to start out with a quick update on what interest rates are doing right now, and then we have an awesome interview with Adam. Adam has been in the construction industry for over 20 years as a general contractor. He's flipped many houses, he's done residential work, commercial work. He has a ton of experience in the construction world, so stay tuned for that. And finally, we head out to Riverton to tour a beautiful townhome from Edge Homes. It's an amazing home. Stick around for that. We've got lots of great dirt coming your way. I'm just going to take a second here before the interview with Adam to give you a quick update on what mortgage interest rates are doing at the moment. Currently, nationwide, the 30-year fixed rate average is 6.27%. Now, these have come down quite a bit. They were up 6.75%, 7% fairly recently. So these are definitely the lowest rates we've seen in some time. But with these lower rates, it is an amazing time to jump into the market right now. There's some amazing opportunities out there. Please reach out to me if you have any questions about the Utah market. That's it for our quick update as far as interest rates right now. Let's hop into this interview with Adam. Thank you everyone for coming back to the Dirt on Real Estate. We are here today with Adam. So excited to have you on today, Adam. Thank you for taking the time. Give us a little bit of your background, what you've done in your career and what you currently do, and then we'll kind of jump into our interview from there. But I want to let you talk a little bit of your background, and that'll introduce our topic for today.
Thank you very much, Will. Pleasure to be with you. As far as my background, I got a degree in design and illustration, and then found my way shortly thereafter into a commercial construction company. I had the opportunity to really learn at a fairly high level the development side of the business by helping a lot of companies get everything from 2 acres, 5 acres, 10 acres, 20 acres entitlement, designing and building, their facilities. So most of my work for, I'd say from 2000 to 2015 or so, was helping owner users find, entitle, design and build, and even finance their own buildings. Through the course of that, me and my partners got involved with several different development projects. Some in which we were investing, some in which we were acting as our own developer, but it really gave me kind of I think, a fairly wide perspective on the real estate market. Most of that was commercial and industrial, but by the end of my tenure with that company, my partner and I owned a small portfolio of probably 15 or 20 homes. And, we had done several multifamily deals, assisted living, self-storage, medical, dental, so we had had experience in several different realms. I ended up selling that company and then kind of going quiet for a while. But with that experience, there's always the opportunity to get back in at kind of any point, whether you want to do commercial, industrial, passive investments, buy and flip. I don't know. Hopefully that'll give you enough background.
No, I think that's perfect. I think that gives the viewers just a little bit of your experience and knowledge. So what do you focus on mainly for time being now? What does your day-to-day look like?
I haven't wanted to be going what you would call full time, so I'll do a couple of residential flips, maybe one or two commercial tenant improvements. So that would be mostly as a general contractor. And then currently I'm developing a somewhat unique product, which is kind of a combination of self-storage, condominiumized. So I am developing some smaller industrial flex spaces that are for sale.
Very cool. So I think today what I would want to talk about, and if it's okay with you, just from a first time buyer perspective, which is mainly what we focus on here with this show, is for someone my age that has very little construction background, maybe give us a little bit of your knowledge today. If you go into a house, maybe you don't love the term flipping, but when you're repositioning a house, what it looks like for you to go in and evaluate how much work needs to be done.
I think I understand what you're going for, and I think I would use the word goalposts. There's no way someone could have enough experience or enough perspective unless they've really done, several deals. So I guess, at least the way I'm understanding the question, I would just suggest that someone has a very clear goalpost as far as how long are you going to be here and what is your really goal, your actual goal. So are you looking to make money in the short term, buy the home, fix it up, sell the home in a 2, 3 year time period? Is it an actual flip, where you're looking to get in there and sell the thing 6, 8 months later? Or are you just saying, boy, I just want to make sure that I stay on the right side of equity? So if somebody just can clarify what their goal really is, I think that's the only realistic way to, at least the way I'm understanding the question, is to go into a deal. It's a construction project. Everything will go wrong. Cost could be whatever you want it to be. You know what I mean? You have to have a budget and a realistic assessment of how much work am I willing to do. And none of that really is realistic. I mean, things go wrong. Halfway through the project, you get this harebrained idea to, oh, let's add a bathroom in the, attic space. And I guess go into a project as a first time buyer with a really clear understanding of what it is you're going to do. You're going to live there for 10 years? Well, then that's a totally different situation from someone who's looking to make money and exit in the next 2 years. Is that an acceptable answer?
That's a great answer. Let's give it the scenario of somebody that is going to stay in the home for at least 5 years, 5 years minimum, because that's typically what we recommend in the real estate industry. A lot of people will say if you can stay in the home for 5 years, typically you'll have positive equity. So if you're staying in a home for 5 years, what kind of projects would you look at and say, maybe in this house, it's just too much work? Like, do you just stay away from foundation issues? Do you stay away from sewer line issues? Maybe talk a little bit about what projects are more work than it looks like from the outside, and maybe projects that are a little easier than you would think.
Yeah, and see, my answer would be uniquely unhelpful to most of your listeners because, I've been a licensed general contractor for 20 years, so I'm not intimidated at all by sewer line issues or, foundation issues. As a matter of fact, about a year ago, I did a flip up at Olympus Cove that, I bought it for $200,000 under ask because of those two issues, foundation and sewer, and I was able to remedy both of them for less than $20,000. It was a very, very simple thing because of my experience, but I don't think that would be the norm for most of your audience. So I would think that as long as a first-time buyer has done their homework, probably with a licensed realtor saying, are we buying this at a realistic price given the amount of work that it needs? So, based on comps and that kind of thing. If you buy something right, then I think the traditional ones are going to be, kitchen, master bath, and landscaping. If you're able to go in there and do something that adds value in those three areas, normally, once you add those three improvements, kitchen, master bath, landscaping, in 5 years, you're going to be, good money ahead. Yeah, barring some kind of unforeseen nightmare, like a structural flaw or, yeah, some kind of plumbing disaster, normally someone's able to get an estimate on a kitchen or even a master bath. And yes, it's expensive, but normally you're able to look at that kind of stuff and say, wow, it's going to cost me X, it's going to be worth Y. And after a couple of years, at least in my experience, my 25 years of experience in Utah real estate, you're virtually always going to come out on the good side there unless you have some very, unusual event, like the 2009 recession or something like that.
Sure. So maybe what are kind of the biggest red flags that you see when you walk into a home, whether it's maybe old electrical or old plumbing, but what are the biggest red flags that you're looking for when you walk into a home?
I mean, normally it's even before I walk in, it's what it's priced at. You know what I mean? So if I'll look at a house and say, okay, it's 4,000 square feet and we're in Cottonwood Heights and, they're asking, you know, 295 a square foot, you're just like, okay, well, this is just, you're already at the very, very top of the market. Why would you do this? So unless the house was immaculate, I just wouldn't even go there. So I would say price. Price is the biggest mistake where someone's looking at it, getting emotionally excited by it, even considering it when it's already on the wrong side of the field. I think it's a little bit too general, to say what would be the biggest mistake because some homes may have a cracked foundation and that might be a $15,000 foam lift. It might not be that big of a deal at all. So I guess I don't know how to answer the question as far as what are the biggest red flags. I really think it's if the house is already priced at the extreme and you're even considering it or trying to find ways to mentally make this math work. I really try and find the worst house in the best neighborhood. I always want to be buying at the lower side of the, spectrum. Now, I'm not big enough to be into wholesaling and really getting these homes at 25% below market. Most of my deals I find are on market. but I have to look at 15, 20 deals before you find one that makes sense. Is that sufficient? Have I addressed it?
That was great. And that was an interesting topic that you brought up of find maybe the worst home in the best neighborhood. I don't know, did you just stumble upon that? Is that something that you were brought up into, or is that just your common sense, I guess?
Yeah, I was going to think, to me, it seems self-evident that, from a real estate standpoint, there's the old adage about the location. So I never know how to overcome a bad location. So, for instance, probably about 2 years ago, I did a flip over by Westminster, and horrible property, but it was touching Westminster campus. So I looked at the numbers and just thought, okay, you really can't go wrong here. I think I bought the project for I don't remember exactly. I think I bought it for 750,000 and then put about 200 into it. But it was the kind of project where I could have put 300, 350, and I think I still would have made my money back. So it was bought as a triplex. I repositioned it by getting permission from the city to add a unit above the garage. So it would have, then I sold it as a fourplex. I just used that as an example that it was the right location. It was in terrible condition, needed a lot of work, but I could tell right off the bat the location was going to overcome all of that. And I think I listed the project with about 200,000 in profit. I was under contract in a matter of days, and the very first offer bought it. And he's done great with it. He's a multi-family. He owns a portfolio of smaller 4, 6, 8 plexes. Saw the value and just, it clicked right away. But I literally think that I could have put in 100 grand more and made 100 grand more, 150 grand more, made, maybe still 100 grand more because it was in the right location. It was the right product.
I think that's a great tip. And you touched on this just a little bit, but go into a little bit more detail. What features in a home add the most value from your perspective?
I'm happy to share my opinion. I don't consider myself an expert on that. And I think some realtors would have better data. From my personal experience, because I never do lower end flips, because I'm never just trying to whitewash things and just get it done as fast as possible, I normally go in and say, I'm going to do things as if I were going to live here, or I'm going to add the features that I want. So I have a fairly simplified recipe where, as I mentioned before, master bathroom, kitchen, and landscaping, I really do think have a disproportionate impact, on the appeal of the property. Beyond that, I really like to take, and I think some people would maybe argue against this, but I like to take bold risks with the design. So I'll do loud colors or a very bold wallpaper, or do a tile pattern on the floor that I don't think many other people would do, because in my experience that ability to stand out makes a real difference, and that most buyers, they know what they like but they have no courage, so they would never do it themselves, but when they see it, there's almost kind of a relief factor. It's like, ooh, that's different. That's cool. I would never have the courage to pull the trigger on that myself, but seeing how someone else did it. So that's a very simplified version of the recipe that I've used. You know what I mean? And I would really say that I emphasize master bath and kitchen more than anything. Landscaping, I think, is one of those things that will always pay you back. But in the last couple of years, what landscaping has done is it almost defies logic. I mean, I used to be able to get a lot done for $15,000, and nowadays I would say that even a front yard remodel a lot of times will be 40,000, 50,000. Landscaping has gotten really, really pricey. Anyways, that's my simplified recipe.
Okay, I want to touch on a couple things there because I first off love that you're not just going in and putting in the basic gray cabinets, gray floor. Love that. Stands out a ton. And for me, and especially my wife, walking into a home, that's what draws us to things is those features that stand out, the different tiles. If it has, my wife loves mosaics. If you can put a mosaic in a home,
Yeah.
she will remember it forever. So love that you're not afraid to put in some of those more unique features. And then landscaping, I want to touch on just for a little bit longer here. When you say a front yard renovation, what exactly goes into that to get you to that $50,000 mark?
A lot of times things are in bad shape. So at a minimum, you're doing what I'd call like a clear and grub, where you're just, two guys for 3 or 4 days just hacking down garbage and throwing it in the dumpster and hauling it off. It's surprising, if you're paying guys 25, $30 an hour, two guys for an 8 hour day, 3, 4 days, and with $500, $600 per dumpster haul off, you're very quickly going to drop 3, 4 grand, not even to get anything, just to get rid of the garbage, just to see what you got. Add on top of that a non-existent or probably a really busted up irrigation system, and you're either putting in a couple of new valves, several new heads, a couple of drip lines, and wham, you're easily $5,000, $6,000 in landscaping, and all you've done is clear it up and get it to where it's working now. Then, if you want to add shrubs, trees, bushes, $500, $600 a pop on trees, easily $70, $80 a pop at the greenhouse just to buy a 3, 5 gallon shrub, and then, to put it all in. So I struggle at getting value with landscaping, or in other words, just kind of what the market is right now. It just costs that. Now, I do think you get it back, but man, it's kind of a tough pill to swallow because you'll get a couple of bids from a couple of different landscapers, and at least in the greater Salt Lake area, I'm working in Alpine right now, and a lot of these areas they're so busy that the price they quote, it is what it is. I mean, it's not like you're going to get multiple bids and see a big difference, especially if you're flipping. You got to get in there, get it done, and get going. You really can't burn 3, 4 weeks meeting with guys, talking through different bids, equalizing those bids, getting it on the schedule. You really kind of have to get it done. So that is, probably not 50 grand, but that's easily 20, 25, and you're just talking a pretty entry level front yard. You haven't terraced, you haven't graded, you haven't brought in water features, and some properties need that.
And well, and you're not talking new sod or new concrete or anything like that. That is just get rid of the bad and get it working. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, I've probably only done two projects with, extensive landscaping, and both of those, boy, they added almost six figures in a couple of months.
Oh man.
I think that I got my money back, but landscaping is a lot of work, so I find that a tough one.
Wow. I think that's a pill that a lot of people don't know about. Let's switch gears for just a second here. So, for a first time home buyer, one of the biggest things is a good home inspection. That is one of the most valuable things you can do before purchasing a home. On a home inspection, what would you encourage people to look out for? Things that you personally are looking out for?
I agree with what you said about how important it is, but a word of caution. Home inspection is a little bit like, they're paid to find problems and they're gonna find problems. So I've bought projects that I know are super clean. I've added 100 grand, and then the buyer got a home inspection. They found even more issues. I find a lot of the professionals in the home inspection industry to be really very, very problematic, but that's what they were paid for. So the only things I care about on a home inspection are going to be roof and mechanical. So mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and roof. Virtually everything else I'm going to either ignore completely or take with a big old grain of salt, because so many of the home inspectors, and I won't get into personalities or anything like that, they're quits that are paid to find problems. So, boy, I just don't put a whole lot of weight on a home inspection, in my experience, unless it's in those kind of really four big items.
Well, and I would add foundation, structural with there as well.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, no. You're right. And anything could, they might say, oh, three of the four appliances are broken. And oh, did you realize that all of the toilets are running? I mean, you're right. They could come up with a number of things, but by and large, I find that the majority of what they say, they're making mountains out of molehills. Now, if you're a very inexperienced first-time buyer, or if you're planning on staying in the home a long term, yes, maybe that home inspection begins to take on different dimensions and a greater level of importance, especially if you're a first-time home buyer that says, hey, I don't even know how to turn a wrench or adjust a blind. So that could be really, really important. I'm coming from the other end of the spectrum, where I'm very hands-on and know how to do everything. So obviously one has to take my opinion with a grain of salt.
So for your projects, how much of it are you personally in there working on doing versus hiring out?
I hire all of it out,
Okay.
but I do 100. I mean, I'm very hands-on nonetheless in the sense that I do all the inspect. You know, I go look at the property, I do the inspection on the property, I meet with the subs and say, here's what we're gonna do. I'm at the job, you know, if not every day, every other day, but I don't, you know, hammer and saw. I don't, you know, paint or anything like that. So again, that's why people have to really take my opinion lightly because I have all these subs and all these connections, and you know, I know how to take one look at it and see what's going on. Not many first time buyers are going to have that same type of experience. I don't really have to do any of the labor or work per se myself, and I could immediately recognize if something's being done correctly or not.
Well, that is a huge bonus that I bet a lot of people would kill for. We're getting a little shorter on time here. I'd love just maybe a couple stories from you of some things, I don't know, you find behind walls or just things that went wrong and then wrong and then wrong and wrong. Maybe just a couple things that pop to your mind.
Boy. You know, one of them was, you know, I bought a property where there was a foundation problem and a plumbing problem, and the sellers had actually built a wall in front of the wall to hide that. They had hired contractors and gone to great expense to cover that. And they had installed a fake PVC drain that went 5 feet down the wall, 20 feet across the other wall, and was dumping water into a Home Depot orange bucket, all hidden behind a wall. So, man, that was one where you know, very malicious seller had gone to great lengths to hurt the person they were selling to. Luckily, I found it and then used it to my advantage. I was like, oh, this is a big problem, and this is going to cost tons of money to fix. And I think I fixed that problem for $10,000. I mean, it was really really easy, and I got a massive discount.
Sorry, I just want to say, were you able to find that before you purchased the home? So that was during your inspection period?
Yes, and I was elated. When I found it, I was elated because I knew that I was going to be able to make lemonade out of this. So when I found it, I could not have been happier.
I can only imagine for a first time buyer finding that, just a Home Depot bucket, being terrified.
Yeah, yeah, that's as a first-time buyer, it would have been a no-go. You would have had to just walk away. Likewise, I looked at a property where, you know, I could tell that it was aged, but I got dirty and went up in the attic and looked at it, and somebody had taken caulking, you know, just a tube of regular like painter's caulk, and caulked all the leak holes on the inside, and it was fresh. You know, they had done this literally weeks ago. Again, going to some real lengths to deceive and to hurt you. And again, in that case, I was like, oh, well, fantastic. You know, this is going to be a big net reduction. I was able to call one of my roofers and say, hey, go walk this roof again, you know, before we had bought the property, before our due diligence was over. And he had said, well, I'll be able to make this roof weather tight for $2,000, you know, and you won't have a leak for another 3 or 4 years. Or to do the whole roof and re-roof it, it was less than I thought. If I remember right, I think he was able to say that he'd do the re-roof for like 15,000. So obviously, when I bought it, I just said, "Hey, we're going to take a $15,000 discount because it needs a whole new roof." They knew what they were doing. They were like, "Ah, crap, you know, we got caught." And then what I ended up doing was just re-roofing a couple of valleys in the eave, and then we did I want to say $6,000 or $7,000, and my roofing company said, "Hey, we'll guarantee you're not going to have another leak for 5 years." And we sold it that way, and you know, and we said, "Hey, here's in the fight. Here's this roof, this guarantee. If you have a leak within 5 years, they'll come out and fix that."
But that's one of the big things is as you're selling that, you're disclosing, hey, this is what we've done. This is what they're guaranteeing. Not that it's a completely new roof.
Correct. We acknowledged it, and we said, "Here's what we've done. Here's
Yeah,
what we've done."
awesome.
One thing was similar like that with there was a plumbing problem, and it was just it was, you know, it was in the Sugar House area, like early 1900s plumbing. All the roots had gotten into it, so all we did was we roto-rootered the, you know, the seller did disclose this, and they said, "Hey, there's a big problem." You know, we took that into account. But I mean, the fix was not that bad at all. We, you know, bored out the lines, cambered the lines, and then just for about 4 or 5 days before, again, before our due diligence and our money went hard, we ran the dishwasher and the washer, you know, we just ran a bunch of water through it and said, oh, they were saying this is backing up all the time. We couldn't get it to back up again once we had, you know, augered the lines. So that was something that the seller thought was just a massive problem. Oh, you're going to have to dig all this up. You're going to have to redo all these lines. And we were like, it cost us $500. And again, when we sold it, we gave them the footage. We said, here, here's what the drains look like now. Here's before, here's after. And I never heard I don't think they had another problem again. But so sometimes problems as a buyer are a real opportunity. But yeah, you do have to have the benefit of wisdom to navigate that.
Yeah. But if you're planning on being in a house more than 5 years, that at least gives you a little bit of surety knowing that the market's going to go up gradually and you have a backing at least there. Any last things that things went way better than you were expecting?
I've been fortunate in my career, especially in my flipping portion. Many times I've made much more than I've never lost money on a flip. I've never lost money on a residential deal. Knock on wood. Well, that's not entirely true. I mean, my partners and I, we took down 30 acres once to build 80 homes, and we actually lost a considerable amount of money on that. But that was during that 2009 10 downgrade. So I guess I have to temper that statement. But on an individual deal, uh, I've made much more on individual residential flips than on many commercial deals that I've done. So Utah real estate has been, up to this point, really quite, lucrative. I think we're entering into a time and a period in the economy where maybe it is dangerous to keep treating homes like almost like a crypto type asset that it's just always going to trade up and up and up. But I don't know, up to this point, the risk return on residential flipping has been far better than many of the other investments I've made.
And then just lastly, as we wrap up here, do you have any advice for first time homebuyers? If you could go back to the first time you bought a house, things you would love to know or do differently.
Again, I think I'm so jaded coming from the contractor background that most of I think a lot of my wisdom is kind of narrow, siloed in that. I would just say, fortune favors the bold. I'd say, yeah, look for the best area, find the worst house you can, and do it. I think you can do it. Yes, you have to be careful about those goalposts, be realistic about what you can afford and how long you're going to be there. But short of that, I would say, do it.
I love it. Thank you so much, Adam. This was great. Love talking with you today.
Enjoyed being with you.
All right, guys, we're back in Riverton. This is the Mountain Ridge community with Edge Homes. This is one of their awesome townhomes. Let's jump into it today. We've got a great house. So we're walking in to this from the front door to this awesome 2-story great room, beautiful staircase up above us, and then it walks us right in to the kitchen. Tons of windows on the back side here as you walk in from the front door. Love this kitchen, great deep sink. And then behind us we've got 2-car garage, little half bath there. So another great thing about this Mountain Ridge community, you are so close to the schools. You've got elementary right next to us, high school right next to us, middle school is less than 2 miles, all of it walking, biking distance. Really can't beat that if you have kids that are going through school. You probably know already how important it is to have the schools close. So really great feature about this community here. That's pretty much it for the main floor. Let's hop upstairs. We got 3-bed, 2-bath up there. From the top of these stairs, you can really just feel how open this house is. This is a townhome, but it really just feels like it's a normal single-family home. It's awesome. So we're walking in right off the bat. You have a laundry room, good space in there, nice shelf up above. You've got space for other cabinets if you want it. And then we've got 2 kids' rooms on the side, and then in the back we have the primary. So we'll jump into this kids' room first. Nice double-door closet, huge sliding window. Love the natural light that comes into this room here. All right, next kids' room, pretty much the same. We do have a bathroom that we'll check out in between these 2 kids' rooms here. Nice bathroom, great tub shower insert. I really love the window up above the shower. It lets in some nice natural light. Okay, and then we've got the second kids room here. Nice space, again, huge sliding window. This one, you've got a view of the mountains behind us. You've got Lone Peak there. You also have Mountain Timpanogos to the right. Brings the mountain feel of Utah into this home a little bit. So from that second kids room, we're gonna hop into the primary bedroom now. Ensuite bathroom, walk-in closet in the bathroom. Again, I know I've talked about this before, but you cannot beat having your closet attached to the bathroom. It is the best. Another awesome feature just all over this house, these great big sliding windows, lots of natural light, lets in the cool breeze in the summer and fall, in the evenings. We still cool down in the evenings here. Check out this bathroom, nice double vanity, big walk-in shower, and then you've got this awesome walk-in closet behind us, all attached. Again, as we're wrapping up this home tour, this townhome really just feels like a single family home. You have that big 2-story great room. You've got the elementary right next door and the high school. This is really a home you can stay in for a long time, not just while the kids are small. So again, if you want to see any of these homes in person, please reach out. My number and email are always in the show notes below. I'd love to talk with you. Thank you again for watching this episode of The Dirt on Real Estate. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe. All of that really helps us out here. As always, if you have questions about real estate here in Utah, I would love to speak with you. Please reach out. My number and email are always in the show notes below. Or if you'd like to see any of these homes that we've toured, I'd love to take you through them. That's it for this week though. Tune back in next week. We'll be back with more dirt.